No one spoke Lord Valerius's name without lowering their voice. In taverns and chapels, people called him the Monster King, the pale ruler of the keep beyond the river fog. Mothers warned children with his name. Priests blamed him for long winters. Merchants blamed him for bad luck. The fear was everywhere, even though nobody truly knew him. They only knew stories that always ended the same way: someone ran, and no one stayed long enough to see the truth. That spring, another rumor spread about a silent Omega girl living in Briar Hollow. Her name was Ava. She was 17, quiet not by choice but by birth. Her voice never came, as if the world had skipped over that part of her. Still, she worked, helped, listened, and carried herself with a calm that made people unsure what to do with her. In their minds, an Omega was either a blessing or a danger. And Ava, gentle as she was, became something people watched too closely. When word reached the village that Lord Valerius had been seen near the river, Ava's aunt began shutting windows early. "Stay inside," she warned. "If the Monster King wants something, he takes it." Ava nodded, because she understood fear. She had lived in it her whole life. But she also knew something else. Fear was often louder than truth. The first time Ava saw him, it wasn't dramatic. It was early evening. She was returning from the well when she noticed a raven on a fence post, still, alert, almost unnaturally focused. It clicked softly and turned its head toward the alder trees. Ava followed its gaze. A man stood beneath the branches, tall and quiet, his dark coat blending into shadow. He didn't advance. He didn't threaten. He simply waited, hands empty, posture careful, like someone trying not to frighten her. Then he reached into his pocket slowly and placed a small cloth bundle on the ground. He stepped back. He left. Ava waited until he disappeared before approaching. Inside the cloth was a jar of honey, still warm, and a pouch of dried lavender. A note in elegant handwriting read, "For sleep. For peace. No name." Her aunt called it bait and hid the honey away like something cursed. But that night, Ava tucked the lavender beneath her pillow. For the first time in weeks, she slept without waking in fear. After that, small things began happening around Briar Hollow, quiet changes people couldn't explain. Wolves that had been circling the village vanished. A weak bridge survived the floods as if someone had repaired it in the night. A wagon trapped in marsh mud was found at dawn on dry ground, horses calm and unharmed. People whispered that the Monster King was watching. Not with gratitude, only dread. But for Ava, the signs became personal. Bread appeared on the wall behind her house before sunrise, wrapped and still warm. Rosemary was tucked into her bucket handle at the well. Fallen branches were cleared from her path. And sometimes, at dusk, she would look up and glimpse a still figure at the marsh edge, present for one breath, gone the next. Ava began leaving notes under a flat stone near the alder trees, using charcoal. "Thank you." Sometimes the next day she found replies. "Because you should not be alone in your quiet. Because the world is loud enough." Once she wrote, "I don't understand who you are." The answer came in darker ink than before. Someone who remembers what it is to be hunted for what you are. Ava held that message for a long time. It didn't feel like a threat. It felt like recognition. Then fear in the village sharpened into action. One afternoon, Ava returned to find the headman and the priest speaking to her aunt. Their faces were tight, voices low. "She's an omega," the priest said. "And he is near." "You know what that means." "It means nothing," her aunt insisted, but her fear betrayed her. "It means a temptation," the headman replied. "Quiet ones are easily taken." They decided Ava would be sent away to the convent in Stonegate for her safety. Ava tried to protest, tried to force words out, but nothing came. And her silence was mistaken as agreement. That night, Ava slipped to the alder trees with shaking hands and left a note under the stone. "They're sending me away. I don't want to go. I don't have anyone to speak for me. If you are real, please don't let them." At dawn, the cart arrived. Ava climbed into the back, staring at the wood beneath her feet while the village watched from behind curtains, relieved, guilty, silent. When they reached the alder lane, the air shifted. The horses slowed, then refused to move. The raven landed on the fence post and clicked. The priest went pale. "No." A man stepped from the trees. Lord Valerius. He wasn't a monster. He looked like someone tired of being feared. Pale, yes, but not dead-looking. His coat was simple. His face held no cruelty. He stopped several paces away and made no threatening move. "This is village business," the headman forced out. Valerius's gaze moved to Ava, and something softened in his eyes. "She is not yours to send away," he said quietly. The headman's hands tightened. "She's a risk. You're the proof." "You fear what you do not understand," Valerius answered. "I will not punish you for that." The priest lifted iron nails like a charm. "Why are you here?" Valerius's voice gentled further. "Because she asked." The lane fell silent. The headman swallowed hard. "You'll take her, then?" "Like the stories." "The stories need a villain," Valerius said. "And you need someone to blame for your fear." He stepped aside and nodded toward the marsh path. "If she wishes to go, she may walk," he said. "If she wishes to stay, you will turn this cart around and never speak of sending her away again. No threats. No rage. Just certainty, heavy as a vow." Ava looked at her aunt, whose eyes were bright with regret. Ava took her aunt's trembling hands and pressed them to her cheek, then rested her forehead against hers, saying everything she couldn't speak. Then Ava stepped down from the cart and walked toward the trees. Valerius didn't grab her. He didn't lead her like property. He only walked beside her, matching her pace, giving her space. "I cannot offer you a normal life," he admitted as they entered the quiet marsh path. "My name frightens people. Their fear will follow. But I can offer safety. Choice. Silence that isn't lonely." Ava stopped and wrote on a flat stone. "Why me?" Valerius read it. "Because I know what it is to have your nature decided by others," he said. "And because I am trying, every day, to choose restraint over hunger." She wrote again. "Do you drink from people?" "I do," he said honestly. "But never to harm. There are those who offer. I take only enough to survive. I repay what I can." His voice grew quieter. "I have failed before," he confessed. not in grand ways. In small, shameful moments. That is why I choose differently now. Ava felt something loosen inside her. A knot she'd carried for years. Soon the marsh opened to higher ground. A stone road led to Valerius's castle on a hill, nothing like the terrifying legends. The walls were grey with age, softened by ivy, windows lit warmly. Near the gate was a garden. Lavender in thick rows. Rosemary and thyme. Daisies. Painted beehives with bees drifting in sunlight. Ava stared, understanding blooming slowly. The honey. The lavender. The bread. Not traps. Provisions. Inside, the castle wasn't a prison. No chains, no cages. Only clean halls and calm servants who treated Ava like a person, not a prize. Valerius gave her a bright room overlooking the garden, a desk with paper and ink set neatly out, like he expected her words to matter here. You may lock the door, he told her gently. No one will touch you without permission. Ava wrote. What do you want from me? Valerius read it, and grief flickered across his face. I want to know I can protect something without possessing it, he said. I want to be better than the worst story told about me. Then, softer still. And I want you to have a life where your silence isn't treated as emptiness. Ava cried, quiet tears, ordinary tears. Valerius didn't rush to wipe them away or demand gratitude. He only placed a clean cloth on the desk and stepped back, letting her keep her dignity. Days passed. Ava learned the castle's gentle rhythm. In the library she found ledgers, not lists of conquest, but careful records of aid, grain sent to villages, medicine paid for, roofs repaired anonymously. Notes in the margins. Widow with 3 children, send extra. Winter harsh, double the firewood. Kindness done quietly, hidden under the world's fear. One evening, Ava asked him in writing, why don't you tell them? Valerius shook his head. They would call it manipulation, he said. And their fear keeps them from hunting me. Fear is a fence. I don't like it, but I have learned to live inside it. Ava wrote. Isn't that lonely? Yes, he admitted. She stared at the word on the page for a moment, then wrote her answer. Then let me stay. Valerius looked at her like someone being offered warmth after centuries of cold. You can leave whenever you wish, he said. I will never close the gate on you. Ava nodded and sat beside him in the garden at sunset. At first she kept a careful space. Then, when the silence felt safe, she let her sleeve rest lightly against his, small, deliberate proof that she wasn't afraid. Valerius didn't move away. Outside the castle, the world kept calling him a monster. People still crossed themselves at night. Briar Hollow still locked doors at dusk. And yet that summer, crops grew better. Illness faded in the village after herbs arrived anonymously at the chapel. Bridges held. Honey appeared on windowsills with no footprints beneath. The whispers began to change, not into praise, but into uncertainty. Into the slow, uncomfortable realization that the stories might be missing something gentle. Near the end of summer, Ava watched the raven settle near the beehives. Valerius stood behind her, quiet as ever. Ava wrote one last message and handed it to him. They feared you. But you never used their fear. You only used your strength to make room for softer things. Valerius read it slowly. When he looked up, his eyes shone, not with menace, but with relief. I have been called a monster so long, he whispered, that sometimes I forget I can still choose what kind of creature I will be. Ava placed her hand over his, warm against cool skin. Not a claim. Not a chain. Just contact. Just truth. Outside, stars appeared one by one. Night arrived the way it always did, misunderstood by those who only feared it. Inside the castle, among lavender, an ink and quiet breathing, a feared king and a silent girl stood together. And somewhere beyond the marsh, people slept a little easier without knowing why. Because sometimes kindness doesn't announce itself. Sometimes it simply stays hidden, doing what it can. And sometimes, behind the name everyone fears, there is a heart that has learned, slowly, sincerely, to protect what is gentle, even when the world refuses to believe it exists.